that Field of Dreams, it's an unusual film in that men, universally, all guys, when we watch it, we tear up at one point. And we're ashamed to admit that we do that, but that is one of the few films that makes all men cry. What is the secret to making men cry in a movie?
I don't know. That movie is, I think, our generation's wonderful life. It's a wonderful life, and it happens, and it doesn't matter how often you watch that movie. When you ask your dad to have a kid, it seems to get people. And
there's more reasons why this film is seen today as a timeless classic. It is a great film, and it resonates even close to 40 years after its release, and it's my job to tell you why that is the case. Field of Dreams is a film about second chances, or the dream of a second chance. Either way, there is a reason why the film is such a great piece of media and held in such high regard. So let's talk about Field of Dreams. So, Field of Dreams is an adaptation of W.P. Kinsella's Shoeless Joe, a book that the premise of which is basically Shoeless Joe Jackson comes to Iowa. But the underlying plot is of a man who's really just yearning for a second chance with his father. Now, there is a lot to this story, but the story is about Ray Kinsella, an Iowa farmer who starts hearing voices in his cornfield.
If you build it, he will come.
There are more voices to be heard and to be talked about, but I just want to go ahead and tell you now before we talk about the film that this video will not be a full-blown plot explanation. I'm assuming that if you've clicked on this video, then you've seen the film already. But if you haven't, please go watch the film and come back, because there will be spoilers, and trust me, it's definitely worth the watch. Like I said, there's a reason why this film is still held in such high regard to this day. And speaking of plot, let me go ahead and kind of break down how the video is going to go. I'm going to mention the plot briefly, but like I said, it won't be a full-blown explanation. But I'm going to be, for the most part, focusing in on the film's 4 main characters and the second chances that they receive. And I'm going to do it one by one and then come back to the underlying message. However, there is also this theory about the character of Terrence Mann that he's actually dead or he's a ghost. I'll be talking more about that towards the end, so trust me, we shall get to that theory. With that, however, out of the way, if you guys can, please hit the like button. Please consider subscribing. I'm also going to want to get you guys' thoughts in the comment section about the video essay and the film, too. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Let's talk about Field of Dreams. So, Ray believes that the voices are telling him to build a baseball field in the middle of his crop, which of course is not a good idea for a farmer to do, and Ray is even made fun of by the townsfolk. His brother-in-law constantly reminds him of the amount of money that he is losing with the baseball field in the middle of his cornfield, but Ray, for the most part, relents, and his resolve even becomes a little bit more, how do I say, it becomes much, much harder when the spirit of a very, very much maligned Shoeless Joe Jackson appears in his cornfield. It's this chance encounter with the spirit of Shoeless Joe Jackson, who, as said before, is maligned, and like I said, we'll get to him a little bit later on in the video. But it's this chance encounter with Shoeless Joe showing up in his backyard as a ghost or as a spirit, and of course Ray even plays catches with him, that eventually leads Ray to go on a cross-country trip to find 1960s author Terrence Mann, who, by the way, in the novel was actually based on J.D. Salinger. The same J.D. Salinger who gave us the book Catcher in the Rye. Just figured I'd point that out before we go any further. Terrence Mann, a recluse, and as said before, a figure from the 1960s, kind of sort of viewed to be persona non grata, he now lives as a recluse in Boston working on software.
What?
You're from the 60s.
Well, yeah, actually.
Oh, hey! Back to the 60s.
You've changed. You know that?
Yes, I suppose I have. How about this? Peace, love, dope! Now get the hell out of here!
As Mann reasserts to Ray that he wants to be left alone, Ray is there to tell him
you
about
go
a
away.
story that
You're a pacifist!
using his father's name.
My name's Ray Kinsella. You used my father's name for a character in one of your stories. John Kinsella.
You're seeing a whole team of psychiatrists, aren't you?
I don't blame you for thinking that, but no, I'm not.
You see, Ray's father is a ball player, former ball player, World War I vet, had Ray at a very, very late age. Don't worry, we'll come back to that when we talk about Ray specifically, but The two men eventually get to a ball game that night at Fenway Park, and a certain bulletin comes across the scoreboard that is clearly designed for Ray, yet somehow or another Terrence also sees the exact same bulletin.
Moonlight Graham.
The two travel from Boston to Minnesota to find Archie Moonlight Graham, and you find out that Moonlight Graham is actually a doctor, and of course in a bit of a sentient dream sequence, Ray ultimately meets with Archie Moonlight Graham, and he tells him of the missed opportunity that he had at the big leagues. Now, there's a lot more to this, and as you guys can obviously see, I've decided to use a lot of clips to kind of help explain things. However, it's the second chances of Ray, Archie Moonlight Graham, Terrence Mann to a certain degree, and of course also Shoeless Joe Jackson that I want to discuss. So with that out of the way, let's talk about these four men, starting with Archie Moonlight Graham. When Ray meets Moonlight Graham, the older doctor version in what is sort of like a sentient type dream that even takes him back to 1972. Of course, this right here was when the film The Godfather was released. Archie Moonlight Graham tells Ray of his time with the Giants. It only lasted about a month, and of course he was sitting on the bench. At the end of the season, back in those days, the roster would expand because they would call kids up from the minor leagues, and this is basically what happened in the case of Moonlight Graham. He didn't really get any actual meaningful play. He did get to go into the game and play defense, but he didn't. And I'll let him describe it in much more detail here in a second, but he wasn't actually able to get in at bat. But let me let Archie Moonlight Graham kind of explain what really happened.
I'd been up with the club about 3 weeks, but I hadn't seen any action. Suddenly, old John McGraw points a bony finger in my direction, and he says, "Right field."
Yes, sir.
I jumped up like I was sitting on a spring, grabbed my glove, and ran out on the field.
Did you get to make a play?
I never hit the ball out of the infield. Game ended, the season was over.
Now, for purposes of time, I can't play every single scene. Like I said, I know this video is a little bit more clip heavy than normal, but still, when they get back to Ray's home, this version of Graham finally gets his chance to actually do what it is that he wanted to do in the big leagues, which for the most part was get in at bat.
Oh, no, I'm just asking.
Well, you know, I never got to bat in the major leagues. I'd have liked to have that chance, just once. To stare down a big league pitcher. To stare him down, and just as he goes into his windup, wink. Make him think you know something he doesn't. That's what I wish for. Chance to squint at a sky so blue that it hurts your eyes just to look at it. To feel the tingle in your arm as you connect with the ball. To run the bases, stretch a double into a triple, and flop face first into third. Wrap your arms around the bag. That's my wish for Kinsella.
It was his dream. It was a second chance for him to play in the big leagues. Now, granted, there's a little bit more about this that we're going to go ahead and get into here shortly that sort of kind of shows that him being in the big leagues, or let's just say his cup of coffee with the big leagues, wasn't exactly the dream that he would end up being satisfied with. During the conversation between Ray and the older Graham reveals something that is quite revealing. Now, we'll get to that on the other side here, but just to kind of get back to the actual story itself, Ray and his brother-in-law, Ray's brother-in-law, by the way, can't see the players, which is kind of the beauty of the entire thing, that it's, for the most part, a field of dreams. But still, Ray's brother and Ray, they get into an argument about the farm. The fact that there's a baseball diamond in the middle of the farm, they don't have any money, and it's sort of a running theme throughout the entire film, as you guys are seeing right here in the B-roll footage. Still, the thing is this right here. This argument eventually turns, and Ray's young daughter, after she tells Ray the famous people will come scene, she gets knocked off the bleachers. While choking on a hot dog, I know what you're probably thinking, especially if you have kids. All Ray has got to do here is just kind of pop her back and the hot dog will come up. Even though, obviously, Heimlich maneuver on kids is a little bit more difficult than I'm kind of leading on to here. But the young Graham just chooses to make a decision. He sees what's going on, and he chooses to walk across the grass. And he turns back into the older doctor version of Moonlight Graham.
Just wait.
What do we got here?
He saves the child from choking. Insert, all Ray had to do was this, if you guys want to, but still, this writer kind of harkens back to something that he had been saying in the earlier conversation that he had with Ray. And that, of course, was the fact that if he had not become a doctor, that would have actually been the tragedy.
50 years ago, for 5 minutes, you came this close. I mean, it would kill some men to get that close to their dream and not touch it. God, they'd consider it a tragedy.
Son, if I'd only gotten to be a doctor for 5 minutes, now that would have been a tragedy.
Exactly. All Archie Moonlight Graham wanted to do was just get a chance at the plate. That's all he ever wanted, was just an opportunity to lean in, as he describes in his initial meeting with Ray, his initial conversation. And it's this type of stuff that gives baseball fans goosebumps. When we think about going to the plate, actually connecting with the ball, it's that type of stuff that makes the game so romantic. Still, it would have been a tragedy if he had not become a doctor, was the point. Like I said, the only thing Archie Moonlight Graham wanted was a chance to step in the box and do what he said, wink at the pitcher as if to say that he knew something the pitcher did not, and get an opportunity to swing the bat. That's really all Archie Moonlight Graham wanted. And there's something else, too, that just kind of further compounds this. And this right here is going to come up a little bit more when we talk about Shoeless Joe in an indirect way. But the thing is, right here, there's this little thing that Archie Moonlight Graham does. He keeps on saying, I better get back or else Alicia will think I got a girlfriend. That's basically him saying, I enjoy my life with my wife. I'm more than satisfied with my life as it is. The only thing Archie Moonlight Graham wanted was just an opportunity to step in the batter's box. And he got that chance. But that leads us to Shoeless Joe Jackson, so let's talk about Shoeless Joe.
There are others, you know. There were 8 of us. You really mean a lot to me.
Yeah. Anytime. They're all welcome here.
In the case of Shoeless Joe Jackson, it was a second chance not to play baseball again, but a second chance to play with his buddies, the 8 men that would ultimately be banned from baseball. The thing about Shoeless Joe is that Shoeless Joe Jackson, along with Buck Weaver on that 1919 Black Sox team, which I advise you guys go check out the Black Sox scandal, they were the 2 players that lumped in with the rest of the crowd that was actually throwing the series. Now, this video is not going to explore that entire thing, but I would advise you guys look into the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Now, not to go on too much of a tangent, but I want to kind of come back to Archie Moonlight Graham for a second. I talked a minute ago about how it is that Moonlight Graham would say something along the lines of, Alicia might have thought I got a girlfriend, so let me get back to her. He was satisfied living a normal life. That's the point about Archie Moonlight Graham. However, in the case of Shoeless Joe Jackson, baseball, in reality, when you actually study the man, you find out that it was in his entire life. He actually wasn't even educated. I don't even think he went to school, even at an early age. He'd been playing baseball from the time he was about 6 or 7 years old, all the way until his death. Well, maybe not exactly his death. There are stories about him working in a grocery store, bagging groceries right before the end of his life. But the point is this. Shoeless Joe, what he missed was the camaraderie, the ability to play baseball with his buddies. And you sort of see that coming back to Archie Moonlight Graham when they're on the field for the night game. Yeah, I've always found this little bit to be very intriguing.
Ray, I hope you don't mind, but we got tired of just having practices, so we brought another team out with us so we could have some real games.
I don't mind. Where'd they come from?
Where did we come from? You wouldn't believe how many guys wanted to play here. We had to beat them off with a stick.
Hey, that's Smokey Joe Wood. And Mel Ott?
Mel Ott, Smokey Joe Wood. Moonlight Graham is looking at the stars of his generation when he was young. He's looking at the stars of the teens and the 20s, And the thing is this here, it is further compounded when Shoeless Joe says this.
Ty Cobb wanted to play. None of us could stand the son of a bitch when we were alive, so we told him to stick it.
I don't want to go too much into Ty Cobb or anything like that and get too far off topic, but the point is, Shoeless Joe Jackson, what he missed most of all was playing baseball, big league ball, with one of his friends. Even those on the opposing side are still friends. Which brings me to this.
What are you grinning at, you ghost?
If you build it, he will come.
Oh my God.
What? What is it?
It's my father. It was you.
No, Ray. It was you.
He was thanking Ray for building the field. Now, originally this video I wanted to split off here and talk about Ray, but I'm going to save him for the last part. And instead I'm going to go straight to Terrence Mann. So let's talk about Terrence Mann.
I'm unattached. You're the family.
I know, but I want to know what's out there. I want to see it.
But you're not invited.
Not invited? What do you mean I'm not invited? That's my corn out there. You guys are guests in my corn.
Ray.
No, wait. I have done everything I've been asked to do. I didn't understand it, but I've done it. And I haven't once asked what's in it for me.
What are you saying, Ray?
I'm saying, what's in it for me?
You know, with that little bit about what's in it for me and how it is that they're allowing Terrence Mann to go back there but not Ray, I want to go ahead and kind of, pull the cat out of the bag before we talk about Mann in further detail. A lot of people have wondered exactly what it is that's behind, like what's out there, like what's in the cornfield, and I think it's pretty obvious. Fans are not allowed to go into the locker room, which is exactly what the cornfield is. It's a spiritual locker room. That's why Ray is not allowed, but Terrence Mann is. Of course, many people have wondered about Terrence Mann, and they've said to themselves, well, maybe he's actually dead. Even actor James Earl Jones, the beloved James Earl Jones, that even made this quip. I'll link this video in the description box in full, but the thing is this here. A lot of people have theorized that Terrence Mann is a spirit on his own. I wouldn't say he's dead, but definitely a sentient being. And the reason why I say sentient being is because he's able to actually go into the cornfield. He kind of disappears. I didn't provide all of it for you here, the B-roll footage, but the thing that tells me for the most part he's actually real is the fact that he's actually able to order a dog and a beer, and at the same time, Ray's brother-in-law, who can't see the players, is able to see Terrence Mann shake his hand and talk to him. Still, we're supposed to be talking about Terrence Mann in detail, so what's his second chance? Well, when Ray meets up with Terrence Mann being a figure from the 60s, the thing is this here. Terrence Mann is a recluse. Not only is he a recluse, but he wants to be left the hell alone. I think that Terrence Mann's real pain is actually this bit here.
So what do you want?
I want them to stop looking to me for answers, begging me to speak again, write again, be a leader. I want them to start thinking for themselves, and I want my privacy.
He doesn't feel like he was able to connect to the readers of his work at that time. Which brings me to that speech that he gives at the end where he talks about baseball and how, like America, it's a constant.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Earlier in the film, the first mentions of Terrence Mann pop up when Terrence Mann is talked about at a town hall, his books, his works, and how you could say that it's probably not suitable for work. That's what we would use today. But the thing is this. What Terrence Mann was trying to say about baseball being a constant and America being a constant was he wasn't just talking about America itself, wasn't just talking about the economy, the military, the might. He was using baseball as an allegory for the fact that dreams will always exist in America. We really live in a very special place, while at the exact same time, one of the biggest reasons why we live in a special place is because here in America we are allowed to have the conversation, and the conversation always changes. Politics always find a way to differ. People have disagreements. It's one of the only places in the world where you can actually have disagreement and continue to move forward. There are others out there who try to say it's an allegory for immigration, it's an allegory for America's founding. I don't buy that. If anything, I think it's an allegory for the conversation. The conversation is constantly had. People have disagreements all the time, and they normally work through it. Baseball itself has always been sort of a unifying sport, sort of a unifying thing here in the United States. It's America's pastime. And I think that that's what Terrence Mann is being given second chance to do. Go into the cornfield, see what's actually there, experience what the players are experiencing, and it gives him a second chance at becoming a writer, which is, by the way, what he wanted to do, and he felt like he failed at doing in the 1960s. Hence the whole I want people to think for themselves bit. The encounter with Ray, the cornfield itself, what Terrence Mann is seeing, what he's experiencing, this right here is an opportunity for him to go back to doing what he probably should have always been doing, which was being a writer. Of course, he would be much, much more mature in his age, and he would have a better way of conveying his message, but that's what his second chance is. The ability to be what he always felt he should have been. Which brings us to Ray. So let's talk about Ray Kinsella and the second chance that he gets, and also the penance going through to get that second chance.
I didn't understand. What? Ease his pain. What the hell does that mean? Ease his pain. What pain? Right? Whose pain?
Ray's pain is the fact that he and his father were never able to end things on good terms. The conversation that he has with Terrence Mann on the way from Minnesota back to his farm in Iowa is very eye-opening. I'll link the full bit in the description box, but I'm not going to play much of it for you. But basically, with Ray, it had gotten to the point to where he felt that his old man, John Kinsella, was trying to basically live his dreams through Ray. Ray was designed to be the ball player, the guy that actually goes to the big league.
What happened to your father?
He never made it as a ball player, so he tried to get his son to make it for him. By the time I was 10, playing baseball got to be like eating vegetables or taking out the garbage. So when I was 14, I started to refuse. You believe that? American boy refusing to have a catch with his father? I packed my things, said something awful, and left. After a while, I wanted to come home, but I didn't know how. Made it back for the funeral, though.
What was the awful thing you said to your father?
I said I could never respect a man whose hero was a criminal.
Who was his hero?
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
You knew he wasn't a criminal. Then why did you say it?
I was 17.
Baseball for him had got to the point to where it's like he said, it's like eating green vegetables. But the truth about Ray and John is that there's a massive generational gap. He explains at the very beginning of the movie. John Kinsella, his father, served in World War I. He was roughly 18 years old. He came home, played baseball, beat around for a while, playing mostly minor league, coastal league type teams, working odd jobs, and by the time he met his wife and had his son, which of course is Ray, John was already, for the most part, an old man. He was roughly like 50 years old. And that right there obviously was a big-time generational gap, and he was even still working a lot, and he used to tell Ray stories, put him to bed, like he said at the beginning of the film, stories about Babe Ruth, Shoeless Joe Jackson, baseball players. But as Ray explained in the rest of that little bit, he would eventually become a product of the 60s. He would get overly indulged in it, and therefore he would eventually become somewhat idealistic, to a point to where Ray kind of looks back on the relationship and says, my God, you know, I kind of turned down the opportunity to play catch with my old man. I mean, that entire conversation that he has with Terrence Mann about his father, there's a lot of regret in that conversation. To the point to where Terrence Mann tells him that this right here is your penance. And that's really what this entire thing is about, is that Ray is going through a penance. I mean, going back to him at the beginning of the film when I talked about it, he's 36 years old. He became a farmer late. He decided to, because he was hearing voices in his cornfield, he decided to plow over a section of the cornfield to turn it to a baseball diamond, and he gets made fun of by the town. Townsfolk, they make fun of him. They think he's crazy. They think he's a joke. And of course, he's losing money. He looks like he may even lose his farm. And then out of the middle of nowhere, he starts having this bit where Shoeless Joe Jackson, the spirit of Shoeless Joe, shows up in his backyard. And the next thing you know, you've got all these ball players and you've got this quest that you're going on, this journey to find answers. And those answers, of course, lead him to a second chance. And that second chance is that bit at the very end of the film where he sees his father as a young man.
Later, when he was worn down by life. Look at him. He's got his whole life in front of him, and I'm not even a glint in his eye. What do I say to him?
Now, this entire scene is roughly 6-7 minutes. Of course, it leads to one of the greatest scenes in film history towards the end. But basically, Ray got that chance. He got that chance to finally have that game of catch with his old man.
Hey, Dad? You want to have a catch?
I'd like that.
Emotional, heartwarming. It's one of the biggest reasons why the words that we started this video out with Kevin Costner in the background on Conan O'Brien, the biggest reason why it's such a big deal, why it hits especially men a certain way, is because if you've ever lost your father or if you've ever lost a relative and there were words that were said, if things ended on bad terms, you always sort of look back at that and think to yourself, my God, what could have been? God, I would love to have that opportunity back. That's basically what this film is about. It's one of the reasons why it's so relatable and why it resonates so well. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. I think this right here pretty well wraps it up. You guys tell me what you think about the film, what you guys think about the video essay. If you can, on the way out the door, please hit the like button. Please consider subscribing. Let's make the channel much, much larger. Also, if you guys can, like I said before, please leave a comment. I really want to get you guys' thoughts on the video essay and the film as well. Still, please hit the like button. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.